Hey, it's Thursday afternoon, and I'm sitting outside in front of the church to talk with you for just a little bit about the Gospel of Luke. It's such a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I was thinking that, I could record it inside by our beautiful stained glass windows, but I decided to come sit in the front yard. Wonder if I'll get any strange looks of me talking to my camera in the front yard of the church. But I just wanted to take this quick moment to look at the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, which is the verses for this Sunday's worship service. It's a post-resurrection story. And you know how last week we heard about how Jesus appeared 2 times to the disciples in the end of the Gospel of John. We had him transporting himself through a locked door one time to grant peace to the people, and then he came back because Thomas was there and had some serious questions for him. Well, now we're in a different gospel, and it's the same kind of time period right after Jesus has been resurrected, and this time he's on his way with a couple of people who are very aware of the story. We don't think they're of the intimate 12 people, but they must have known of Jesus because they were mourning as they were walking to this place, Emmaus. And Emmaus is said to be about 7 miles out of Jerusalem, and they were walking along, and Jesus came up and joined him. And at this moment, Jesus doesn't look like Jesus, or he doesn't look like the Jesus that they would have known because they don't recognize him at all. And Jesus just invites them to tell their story about how they felt remorse and sadness because of what had happened to them, as they had lost this hope, this great hope of theirs. And so now they are making this journey, and Jesus just listens in. And so that's really the first part of the story. And in our worship service on Sunday, we're going to kind of break it up into 2 chunks because we've got that first part of the story. And I want you to maybe take a look at the 24th chapter of the Gospel of Luke, and then maybe as you're walking around, because I know lots of people are making treks around town, that you think about that as you walk. And what would it be like if Jesus joined you on a walk? What questions would you have for him? I mean, at this particular point in time, I think all of us have a bunch of questions for Jesus. I have a number of questions for him on any normal day, but here we are in the middle of this pandemic. I certainly would have questions for him now. But then the second part of the story really ties in with what we do in worship once a month. And, for the last few weeks, we've done it a bunch of different times in this online worship experience. But Jesus acts as though he's going to keep on going when they get to town. They get to Emmaus, but the 2 people invite him into the home, and they realize who Jesus is by his breaking of the bread. And when he breaks the bread, and their eyes are opened, and they recognized him. And it was in that experience of breaking bread and sharing communion that they knew who he was. And it's a story for us to remember that sometimes we can feel disconnected from where is our personal connection with Jesus. But when we break bread in church, and maybe when we break bread anytime, it's a time to remember that Jesus is a part of our lives. So this story is one that is for all of us Christians who don't have that time and opportunity to necessarily walk with Jesus, or do we? Because I do believe that sometimes Jesus shows up in the voice of a friend, in the voice of a family member, in the voice of a stranger, where we can be surprised at what that Jesus would say. And we also know that we find Jesus in the breaking of bread. Now, as you consider this passage, as we move towards Sunday, I'd like you to just reflect on that and see where you come up with. If you've got some ideas, certainly send them to me. I'd love to hear them. And we will meet together in this online space for worship on Sunday morning. Take care and see you later.